Welcome everyone to the first session of the RoboLaunch Fall Series. Today it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Sergio Sedas. Dr. Sedas is a professor at the Graduate School of Management and Business Administration and the creator of Highly Valued Leader. He works with leading managers and directors that seek to inspire and lead transformation, innovation, and growth. Throughout his more than 30-year career, he has founded and directed multiple high-tech companies that designed and built intelligent manufacturing solutions with robots for major companies in the automotive industry. Dr. Sedas received 2 masters and a PhD in robotics and artificial intelligence from Carnegie Mellon University, where he was supported by several agencies like NASA, U.S. Air Force, the National Science Foundation, and CONACYT. We're thrilled to have Dr. Sedas with us today, so I'll go ahead and hand it over to him now. Thank you, Professor, for making up time for us.
And no, thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm very excited to be here. And thank you. And I'm very honored to be here with all of you. So let me start. I'm going to jump right in. And then there'll be an opportunity for questions and for us to dialogue and et cetera. But let me just start with a short story right now. And a long time ago, or some years ago, I was the head of the mechatronics academic department at Tec de Monterrey. And that was a program that houses or is a home for 960 undergraduate students. So there's a teacher, a high school teacher that comes up to me, and she's the teacher, Alejandra Zúñiga. She's the teacher of Francisco. Francisco is the boy that you see in the wheelchair. Now, he has paralysis cerebral spastica, which is cerebral palsy. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what that means, it's an illness that pretty much, and I'll apologize anything in terms of my translation. I do speak English, but I've been living in Mexico for many years. So if you see me stuck, please bear with me. But basically, Francisco, what that means is he cannot control his muscles. So he cannot control his arms. He cannot control his fingers. He cannot control everything. So he cannot use a keyboard. He cannot do Word. He cannot do Excel. He cannot do PowerPoint. He cannot do everything. So basically for Francisco, his whole university program would have been truncated, finished, because everything you and I take for granted was very difficult for him. So Alejandra comes to me and she asked me if some of the students could come up and just generate a 5-key keyboard. That's all she wanted. Something with 5 keys, an arrow pointing up, an arrow pointing down, one to the left, one to the right, and an enter. And all that Francisco was going to have to do is take his little hands and try to control his arms and hit a keyboard. And with that, there was software that could help him school. Okay, this was actually not high school, but this was even primary school. That was before high school. So she comes to me and I said, well, yeah, for mechatronics students, that's a weekend project. I mean, for many of you, that's a weekend project, right? So I go up to, I send out an email and I send it off to 960 students. And I give them the story of Francisco. And I say, look, here's a story. They're asking for somebody to volunteer for this. I said, there's not going to be any grades. You're not going to give any extra points. You're not going to get any grade assignment. You're not going to get any extra credit. There's no money for this. So if there's anything you need to buy, you're going to have to pay for it yourself. And most likely, nobody's going to tell you anything. The only reward you're going to get is the satisfaction of creating the possibility that Francisco could go off to the university. Well, from 960 students, only one responded. Only one student came back and responded, and that's Mili, the woman that you see right next to him, Mili Lopez. And she took it on. She went off and spoke with Francisco, with Alejandra, with his doctors, and she uncovered, or they discovered, that if he's not too nervous, Francisco, even though he could not control his little arms, he could control his thumb. So the solution that changed the life of Francisco was 2 things. One, that a person just like you, Mili, said yes, and a mouse that you wrap on with Velcro, and it has a little ball that you can control like this. So even if his little arms went like this, he could control the mouse. Then we got together with the people that were in computer science and IT, and they were going to program a virtual keyboard. And it turns out that Microsoft already has it, so that was already done. So based on this, people got inspired, the students got inspired, and they actually inspired by the possibility of Francisco going to the university and this whole story. So now they got together and they started to raise funds, and they raised about $2,500 in Mexico. And they bought him a tiny, tiny, tiny computer, which they mounted onto his wheelchair so he could do some work at school and at home. And that's how it all started. But that's not the end of the story. The students, inspired by this story, by Mili and this story, decided to start a nonprofit organization. And a professor, also inspired by this story, decided to work with them. And what they decided to do is to bring students like you together that are very creative, can come up with all these different solutions that can help people improve their quality of life and help them. Anybody that has any physical disability or whatever, you can create all of these solutions and then give them for free in the internet. I mean, now they've got arms and they got things that you can 3D print. So they would generate the prints, put them on internet. Anybody that wanted to donate them, you could upload them there, download them, do whatever you wanted with them. So that's how they started. And they went off to a TV program where they started to, they won a competition, they inspired other people, they got the funds, they started a nonprofit organization. All of that started. This professor, he started a nonprofit organization. He actually got funding. So he went to Auquera. He funded Auquera. He went to another place that does a lot of funding for nonprofits. And then he started his own company that actually does nonprofit on one side and also does for-profit exoskeletons. So all of this was inspired because somebody like you, Mili, said yes. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. The power you have to start and intentionally create possibility. But let me take you back to my years at CMU. So when I was at CMU, when I was down at CMU, this is what happened. I was very fortunate, like many of you are, and you're going to continue to be. One of my advisors is Red Whitaker. You may have heard of him, and if you haven't, please do. And if you ever see him, just tell him I remember him very, very fondly. He's with a lot of appreciation. So if you're listening to me, here are the words. But Red Whitaker in 1992 stood up and in front of 100 people, he declared the possibility of us designing and building the first robot in history to enter a live volcano in the South Pole. Now, let me put this into context. Everybody that knew about robots from the Field Robotics Center that had any experience was already busy doing something. So everyone that knew about robotics was already committed in many projects. Therefore, the only people that we could actually get into this project, we were all new. That's number one. Number two, there was no money. So when he declared this possibility, there was no money, there was no funds. There wasn't a bag that he could jump into and say, oh, I've got these funds, let's go build a robot. I think it's a cool idea, let's go do it. But he stood up in front of 100 people and he declared the possibility. Now, he didn't declare it as a vision. He didn't declare it as a project. He declared the possibility that within 1 year, with 1992 technology, we were going to design and build the first robot in history to enter a live volcano. And if you listen to Red, you would see it not as a vision, not as a project, but as a possibility, like a reality. And many of us jumped on board. NASA jumped on board. So much that we actually got over $2 million to do this. Now, let me put this into context. You're talking about a robot that had to go into an environment where it had to operate at 40 degrees below zero, 40 degrees centigrade, which is about 40 degrees Fahrenheit below zero. Now, it's very cold, okay? If you're stuck there, the only good thing is you will never get old. You will just freeze. You will never get old. But another bad thing is your phone will probably not work anymore because the welds, all the welding will just start separating. So many things will not function under that condition, okay? Now, we also had the fumes from the volcano. We also had a lot of things that do not work with cameras and that don't go well with cameras. Now, you're talking about 1992 technology. 3D modeling was not what it was today. Computing was not what it was today. AI was not what it was today. We couldn't just get onto ChatGPT and say, how do we do this? So that was when Red got up there and declared the possibility of that. Well, within a year, 40 people got together and designed and built DANTE, the first robot in history to enter a live volcano in the South Pole. Now, every single day we woke up, and every single day we know there was a challenge. And every single day we knew we were going to fail because technology did not exist. That means we were doing things that did not exist. That means we knew that whatever we did was probably going to fail that day. But we were excited. And that's where I learned about possibility. That's the first time I became aware of possibility. So for over 30 years, I have been student, I have been teacher, I have been living possibility. And what I learned, and I want to share with you, is the following. The first is possibility. The second thing is that you already have everything you need, and I already have everything we need to intentionally create possibility. And let me put this, just on a show of hands, people that are here and wherever you are, just on a show of hands, let me know if you've ever organized anything, a party, whatever it is, if you've ever organized anything. Just raise your hand wherever you are. If I can see you or not, it doesn't matter. Just raise your hand if you've ever organized anything. And what did you say? You didn't say, oh, I've got the vision of the party. You didn't do that. You didn't say, I've got the project of the party. You didn't do that. All you said is, hey, we're having a party next Friday. Now, once you did that, people started to communicate. They started putting what's up, whatever, Instagram, whatever it was. People started to imagine the party or the gathering or whatever. They started to imagine what they were going to wear, what food they were going to bring. Somebody already set up so that you could do the money pool. Everything started to happen up to the point that if you went to that or not, it was still going to happen. So you created the possibility of that happening. Wherever you located was born out of possibility. This program right now was born out of possibility. Carnegie Mellon was born out of possibility. All of us that went to Carnegie Mellon, we went there and studied, and we went for a degree and we got our diploma. We actually live as if it's real. And people that hire us live as if it's real because somebody created the possibility and what it means. It has meaning for us. So you and I already have that power. We have the power that Red has to intentionally create possibility. But look at the wonderful thing. Once you know that and you tap into that power, you have a lot of things happen. The first thing that happens is possibility lives in language. It happens when you and I speak. When Red stood up and talked about this, and he shared it with people at NASA, and he shared it with all of us, and he shared it with another university, that the one that they were already studying the volcano. That's how we started the partnerships. And he shared it with other people that joined us, and he shared it with, so there were many people that joined this. It wasn't just the people that built the robot. It was a whole bunch of people that got enrolled. I mean, Discovery Channel, there was National Geographic. All of these people were enrolled in the possibility of the first robot in history of DANTE entering the volcano. And that was because it lives in language as you communicate. But another incredible thing happens. When you live in possibility, your life is amazing. You are alive. You have passion, you have drive, you have hope, you have resiliency, because you're going to face the challenges, and all it is a challenge. I don't know how many, I mean, just show of hands, how many of you have actually run the Ironman marathons or something like that? Very, very challenging. I mean, I climbed up one of the volcanoes of Mexico, the Iztaccíhuatl. It's over 5,000 meters above sea level a couple of years ago. It's a challenge. You wake up every single day and etc. But it's an enjoyable challenge. Well, you're alive. There's hope. There's happiness. There's drive, there's joy. That's living in possibility. That's what bringing this possibility creates. The other thing that happens is possibility allows you to joyfully push the limits. Because this is something that I realized in my life. The only way technology can move forward is if you and I will have the courage to push the limits until we reach the frontier where you and I know we are going to fail. The only way technology is going to advance, and the only way you and I are going to push technology, and the only way people around us are going to do something new and different, is if we have the courage to keep on pushing forward until we reach that frontier where we know we are going to fail. And if that was not the case, you and I would not be using iPhones. We would still be using telephones that are this big with battery packs that are this big. But somebody dared to say, we're going to make them smaller. But technology doesn't exist. We're going to make it smaller. And if that was not the case, you and I would still be using hard drives that are huge and that can only store about 360 megabytes, because those are the ones that I used to use a long time ago when I was an undergraduate student. Those were, they looked like bread baskets or whatever. You carried those, and they were 360 megabytes. That's all they carried. So it is not until you and I have the courage to push the limits. Well, possibility does that, because in possibility, there's no failure. You're creating that life, you're creating that, and there's no failure. Projects may fail. Projects have a specific deadline. You either meet it or you don't. They have a specific outcome. You either meet it or you don't. But possibility is a reality, and a reality that you create. And you start doing it by creating these projects. And do you choose to continue forward or not? You continue to learn from it and continue or not. But the possibility does not fail. And that's very powerful, very, very powerful. So one of the things we learned is it lives in language. The other thing is you and I already have the power to do it. The other thing is it really ignites your passion. It ignites other people's passion. That's why they come on board. That's why you can get the resources you want. The other thing is it possibility brings people together. So I have lived possibility. I have started companies thanks to possibility. I have started academic programs thanks to possibility. I have helped students create their companies, students create programs. I have helped people transform nonprofit organizations, create initiatives. Right now, I'm helping organizations do future now thinking and transform their organizations completely using possibility. And it is just incredible, because it brings people together. People naturally want to be a part of it. They want to contribute. They want to volunteer. And that's what happened with us and DANTE. That is one of the things that happened in DANTE. So if you ask me, if those years that I was there and I didn't sleep, and I'm just one of them, every single person that was working on DANTE, there are people I admire. I mean, I really admire all the people. There are still people at Carnegie Mellon that worked on DANTE, continue to work there, that are there right now as staff, that are there as professors, that have also gone to other institutions, that have left landmarks in different areas, et cetera. But every single person didn't sleep. Every single person didn't eat well. Every single person faced the stress. Every single person faced the challenge. And still, every single person enjoyed every single moment of it. That's the passion that was awakened because Red stood up and declared the possibility of the first robot in history to enter a live volcano at the South Pole. And that's the power you have. And that's the invitation I'm giving you today. So let me give you the steps. Are you in for it? So show of hands or send comments or whatever. I think that it's a two-way. So if you're in YouTube or whatever, I believe that you can also send us communication. So leave us in your chat how we're doing, and I'll hear a little bit from you. But here's I'm going to give you the 6 steps. And if anybody's interested, yes, there is a book out there. It was published in Amazon in 2015. It'll tell you the steps. There's going to be a new version coming out soon that'll tell you intentional possibility in action now for industry. But right now there's the intentional possibility. But I'm going to give you the 6 steps, and I'm going to share the PDF also for anybody that wants it. But here's the first step is you want to start by caring and by looking around what is not working. So start complaining, figure out what people complain about, because the best technologies, the best things that you and I can create, the best things in the world. I mean, the Amazon store was born because people complained about something. Marketing complained about something. People complained about having to go through long lines and not finding the products they wanted. Kroger, now that emulated a lot of the things from Amazon store, was complaining that they were designing and creating products that weren't selling. So by creating that, using robotic technology, sensing technologies, when you and I talk about robots, it's not only robots articulated motion. We're also talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about sensing. We're talking about a lot of technologies that robotics has now taken out to the world, that we see in places like Amazon stores, that we see in artificial intelligence, that we see in many places. Well, all of those were born because people complained. So if you can become sensitive about what people complain about, just go to your community, to your closest community. You don't have to think about the ice caps that are melting. Yes, that's an important thing, but maybe sometimes you and I don't even have to go that far. Just look very closely, and I'll share some examples. Just look in your neighborhood. Look very close to you, and you'll find things people you complain about, your friends complain about, your faculty complains about, your school complains about, your company complains about, your customers complain about. So start by understanding what is not working and how is it affecting people? How do they feel? And you want to get to that. You want to get to how people feel. Because once you can empathize how people feel, how it is affecting people, then we can go to the next step, which is to imagine a world where that does not exist, where that complaint does not exist, where that feeling does not exist. And then you imagine that ideal world, and that's what you declare as a possibility. And I'll share some examples with you right now, concrete examples from some people that have done incredible work and incredible ideas, both in industry and companies, as well as some of my former students and people I admire now as entrepreneurs. So I'll share some of those ideas and that have done with robotics and technology as well. So the first step is understand. You really want to go out there and care. And sometimes you and I, we're so immersed in our technology that we really don't think about the outside world. My invitation to you is start looking outside. Listen to people, care about people, and just figure out what their complaints are. And don't go there with the idea of joining the complainers, because that's not how you create possibility. You don't create possibility by complaining and blaming. You create possibility by wanting to create the ideal world. But to create the ideal world, you have to care. That's what it's about. Care about others. Care enough to create the technologies. Care enough. And that's really what's going to create the best companies, the best technologies, the best everything. So go out there. Now, the second step is now do what we call a turnaround statement. From the complaint, you and I cannot solve complaints. We can only solve problems. What's the difference in my mind, the distinction? A complaint, I only know I don't like it, but I don't know how it would look if I was living what I did. Let me repeat that. When I complain about something, I know I'm not comfortable, I don't like it, but I cannot express what I do want. So I cannot solve it. A problem is when I have clear idea of what it is, how it looks, where I want to be, how the destination looks like, how I'm going to feel, how it looks, how it operates, how people interact, how communication is, how information flows, how people type things in, how people are going to sense things. The clearer it is, the destination is, the easier it is for me to get there. So once I know the destination, then I can go back and understand how it is right now. And yes, I'm going to say it's very crappy, fine, but I know where it is right now. Now I'm able to know where I want to go, where I'm at right now, and I can distinguish the gap. And now I've got the space to create the technologies. I've got the space to create the programs. I've got the space to create the actions, the activities. With DANTE, once Red declared we were building the robot, we had to know the environment. We needed to know the temperatures. We needed to know exactly what the robot was going to do, whether the feet were going to sink into the sand, whether it was rock, it was solid or not, what the temperatures were going to do to it. We needed to understand that, so that we could understand the gap between what we needed to be able to do and where we were. And once we were able to do that, we realized that the speed of transmission because we needed to send a lot of information, visual information, telemetry, a whole bunch of stuff. The speed of transmission that existed at the time was not enough. So we ended up using a new system by NASA to transmit satellite information to the United States so it could be processed, and we could do telemetry, and we could do a lot of stuff. But if we had not understood where we wanted to be and where we were, there's no way we could have filled in that gap. So once you imagine, declare the possibility, you're in a state where you know where you want to be and where you're at, you can start doing it. So the first step is be sensitive, really care, and be in tune, and don't join the complainers and blamers, but do understand, because you want to create solutions for them and for the world. So the second thing is imagine that world and declare it impossibility. And here's the third one: attract, enroll, and unite people. Share the possibility, share the world you're trying to create, and then let people join you. Don't try to control it. Give it a life. You want to find people that want to join it. The way you're going to transform the world is by letting it go. If you try to control it, it'll stay very small. If you allow people to take it and make it their own, you're going to multiply the effect. That's how you transcend. That's how really you change the world. So find people that naturally attract and want to unite. If there's 7 billion people on this planet, trust me, there's going to be somebody that wants to join you. So find those people. Don't struggle with the people, the naysayers and the blamers and the complainers and all those people. You don't need that right now. Find the people, but attract them, enroll them, and unite them. The fourth step is actually this should be number 4. 4 is brainstorm. Once you know that, now you do want to brainstorm, and you want to think about high impact projects. Forget right now if you have the money, if you have the feasibility, if you have the time. You want to create an impact project. What I do with my students when I teach it, whether it's industry or whether it's students, what I do is I tell them, you're going to create a project that impacts 1,000 people. So I do intentional possibility for 3 reasons. Either I want them to gain resilience and self-confidence, or I want them to learn how to lead projects and enroll people, or once they are seasoned, they want to learn how to lead change, and they actually want to lead change initiatives like digital transformation initiatives or cultural transformation, and they're already seasoned. Then we have to go into a higher stage, and they have to implement it, and they have to bring people together. In either case, what you want is you have to bring in a high impact project. And in possibility, there's no failure. So you come up with a high impact project, and then you're going to start with your pilot project, which is a scaled down version. But if you don't start thinking with a high impact project at the beginning, you're going to start with something small that's very lab oriented, and you're not going to be able to scale it up. You're not going to identify the big issues. If Red had not said, we're putting this robot into the volcano, we would not have developed the technologies that are right now in the vehicles and that are right now in many of the places that are commonplace 30 years later. So all of the technology that was generated there at the time right now exists in the world. But if that was not the vision early on, we would not be there right now. So I'm going to invite you, just go for it. Do not be afraid. And that being afraid is part of the process. So don't worry about it. Just trust me on that. Now, after that, the next step is make a strategy plan. So once you pick your project, now it becomes project planning. So make a strategy plan. What I always like to do is, first of all, determine your strategy. It's not the same thing to do something for 50 people than it is to do it for 2,000. It's not the same thing to do this RISS program for 20 people. We could have done it in any place than it is to impact the lives of 1 million people. We needed to do it the way that RISS is being done right now. So it's a totally different strategy. The second thing I always like to do is a make or break issue analysis. What can make this fail? And then once you're able to make a list of everything that can make it fail, you can come up with the alternative. How can I prevent that failure? And then you start making a list of what you need to get it done, whether you have it or not. And then you make a list of what you need to do to get it so that you can get it done, and how many people you need. And then the next step is actually, once you do that, the next step is to actually get into action, take massive action. Enroll more people, get more people involved. I mean, things take time. Even if somebody just posts on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever, that took time. Let them be a part of it and they contribute, and thank them as if they had actually led the whole project, because any small step is equally a contribution. So take massive action. And once you gain the insight, you can start focusing so that you can strategically generate quick wins. So that's the step number 7. And finally, last but not least, always celebrate. Celebrate along the way, every step, because we as human beings get very distracted very easily. Number 2, we get demotivated very, very fast. 3, we get very bored very, very fast. But if you continuously celebrate, that triggers some chemicals in our brain, dopamine, and some other endorphins and some other stuff that keeps us engaged. It's kind of like the video games or like the slot machines at Vegas. That's why they do a lot of things, bells, whistles, and everything that keep us engaged. So celebration is one of the ways. Always keep it. Plus, it's good to enjoy what we're doing. Celebrate every step of the way. Now, you don't have to throw a party every time, but sometimes just sharing with other people, enjoying, sharing the stories, etc. Let everyone share. And the other thing is give it a life of its own. Don't try to, the best way to lead is when you let others lead. And that's where you become a highly valued leader. That's part of what I teach in a highly valued leader. So let it be a highly valued leader. So anyway, right now, I'll take a few questions if anybody has some questions. I don't know if we have a way of getting questions, but Leo, if you have any way of getting questions, or if you have any comments or questions, and then I'll go into some other steps.
Oh, yes, we actually got a question in the YouTube chat. So here,
I'll go for 1 or 2 because I do want to complete, but let me, yeah, so tell me.
Okay, so the question is from Bruno Ribeiro. He first said, thank you very much for the talk, Professor. And he said he's currently working in assistive technology in a biomedical engineering lab at his home university. And his question is if you had any advice for people like him who work in university labs but want to have their projects out to change the life of people like Francisco.
Yes. And actually, I'll share it with you right now. But the first thing you want to do is think about who you want to impact and how you want to impact. That's the first thing. So get in touch with who you want to impact, how you want to make a difference, and start thinking about that, that possibility, that world you want to create. And then go out there and invite people. Let them be a part of what you're doing. Ask them for ideas. Invite them to be a part of it. Share. You may be the technology expert. That's fine. But let them be the whatever else expert. Okay, so that's one way. The other thing is invite professors, invite faculty, invite. One of the things that you also you're going to want to do is increase your level of influence and power. And you do that by enrolling them in the possibility you're creating. So you're not creating technology. Like we were not building a robot. We were not building motors. We were not building sensors. We were doing something more. That's what really engaged NASA to give us money. That's what really got NASA to give us money. Otherwise, there's a lot of people that can build sensors. Why are they going to give it to you? Okay. But what you're doing, what you're about, the change you're trying to do, that's what gets people to give you money, to give you the time, to give you everything. And once you have a possibility, you're at the same level as the president of any company. You have the same level of conversation. So my invitation is first, connect with the change you want to make and what you're really about, and start sharing it with people. Now, you're going to, there's something I call OVI, and that's something that we feel. It's Open Vulnerability Index. It's a word that I coined. I haven't found it anywhere, but it just tells me how comfortable I feel to be able to talk right now in front of you, to share with you, to communicate. Sometimes we feel shy. We don't feel open enough to talk. So maybe you feel shy to go up to the president of another company and share your ideas or ask them for money. That means you have a low OVI. Well, you want to start building your OVI. And how do you do it? Number 1, by having a clear purpose. And number 2, going out and sharing it. The first times you're going to feel awkward. You're going to feel strange. You're going to feel everyone's looking at you. You're going to feel whatever. You're going to feel like if you had a big banana on your head when you're going to express your ideas. That's fine. Go out there. The more you do it, your comfort level is going to be higher. Your OVI is going to be higher. And that's going to allow you to communicate more. The second thing is listen. We tend to want to talk more than we listen. And people will connect with you more when you listen, more than when you talk. So let people talk and listen to them, care about them. Those are the two suggestions. But if you want, let me continue with this, and then we'll continue with the questions, because I'll show you some examples of what people have done. And I think that's going to answer that type of questions. Do you want that?
Okay. Yeah, great. Sounds great.
Okay, but thank you very much for that question. So let me continue and hold on, but do continue. We will continue with the questions. Okay, so we had this method, and thank you for that question. So we had that question. So just in general, there's one more step here, because in the book I didn't have it, but there's one more step. That's the first is empathize, care about, and find out what's out there, the complaints, and the impact it has. Now, from there, you want to declare your possibility, enroll and invite others, define a project, make a plan, take massive action, and celebrate. And Leo, what's the best way for me to share the PDF? Send it to you and you'll post it on a link, or what's the best way?
Yes, we have a newsletter. I think we can share. Oh,
I mean, I can post it on my website and then you can download from there. I could just pass it on to you and then you can take care of it if you want.
Yeah, you can send me too. We can share it within our.
Okay, so I'll send that to you later, so I don't take time
newsletter.
right now. It's going to be just a PDF with all the steps, okay? And I'll tell you a breakdown of all the steps, okay? So there you
great.
go. And if anybody's interested in the book, you can either get it on Amazon, or how about we do this? I'll send you a PDF of the book as well. So if anybody's interested in the book, you'll get a free PDF of the book. Will that work? If
Yeah,
enough
that's actually very, very kind from you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll get that there. And if you give Leo a round of applause for the work that RISS is doing, if you send them a lot of thumbs up to Leo and on the chat, you will all get that book for free. Okay, there you go. Okay, so now let's continue with this. So we have possibility. Whoops, there's in Spanish. Anybody that wanted Spanish, there you go. Okay, now what have we done? So what I've done is I've worked with students, and I worked with small groups, big groups, large groups. One of the groups, we did 250 people. We intentionally created possibility. They launched a number of incredible initiatives. Some of my students actually started companies from that. That was an undergraduate program, okay? Now, I also do it with businesses. I also do it at the graduate school level, at the MBA programs. And I also do it as a consultant in businesses. Like I tell you, I'm working with change leaders and people that are actually leading change. Now, here are some of the social programs, because they do it for social impact. They do it for cultural change. They also do it for technology. But this is one where this is a blue-collar worker, receives very low income in Mexico. I do a lot of my work in Mexico. But he was concerned that in his where he lives, there's a lot of gangs. So the kids don't have any place to play. He played football, soccer, and they don't have a lot of place to play after school. So they have a lot of street gangs. They all get together and they do a lot of bad stuff or whatever. So he created the possibility that kids, little kids or young kids, had a place to play. And that the parents and families that don't know each other right now could actually have a place to be together, thanks to bringing the kids together. So he actually created that possibility. He got a school to lend them the space. He got the city to actually pay for lighting. And the parents actually got together. They brought the kids. So the possibility that every child has a place to play and be with other children, that's Jesus Teniente. And he created that. And then what they did is they all chipped in and they brought in a quarter, whatever, so that they could pay for his taxi, because he used to take 3 buses just to go from work to that place. And they started to pay for his taxi. And this was all pro bono or whatever, but he created that community, and it created a sense of community. Now, he also did it because he wanted to spend time with his son. And football was one of the ways that he could do it. So that was one. My old daughter, she's a medical doctor. And she's very sensitive about the migrants that they're very afraid of going to doctors and everything because of the deportation and all that type of stuff. So she's very concerned about that and having the wellness of migrants in the United States. So she created the possibility that every migrant receives proper health care, not only in the United States and Mexico and in different countries. And she created that. And then from that, there's a number of initiatives that happen in Boston and through the Mexican consulate. There was a Ventanilla de Salud. There was an initiative that helps migrants there to receive treatment. There's also some other programs that she organized that they coordinated through different countries, Latin American countries, for the possibility that every migrant receive proper health. And right now in Mexico, we're getting a lot of South American migrants. There's another person that works with an airport management company. And he started to notice that I just put a child, but really at the airport management company, they were wasting a lot of paper. So he was concerned that there was a lot of waste. And that's how it started. But then suddenly he created the possibility that their airport is an example and reference of environmental care. So he started to enroll people, share that possibility with many people until he finally got in front of the VPs, and they actually designed and redesigned a totally new airport with complete concept of sustainability, energy efficiency, and the whole deal. So they redesigned a whole airport just because he was initially interested or concerned about energy waste because people were throwing too much paper for the printer out and leaving the lights on. So another family, there's a lot of couples that get married, they go to work, and then they don't have a place to keep the children. So at least in Mexico, what ends up happening is one of them has to quit their job to take care of the children. So they created the possibility that young couples can work, grow, and spend quality time with their children. And that was one of my EGADE MBA students, and they created that possibility. And they launched a number of initiatives in their companies that actually created that. But now let me go into somebody that's more in tune with many of you that are roboticists and great technologists. Fabrizio, Fabrizio Reyes. He was master's students. I met him as a master's student, great mechatronics. He's from Ecuador, and I met him in Monterrey. He came as an exchange student, very bright. He went back to Ecuador, and in Latin American countries, Mexico, Ecuador, etc. One of the things you'll see is money in terms of people that are entrepreneurs. Many things, you don't have the cash flow, you don't have the banks, you don't have a lot of financial opportunities to start ventures, and you also have a lot of difficulties in healthcare, et cetera. But he was concerned, the first initiative he took, he was concerned about people and blindness in people. So he created the possibility that people could actually, with visual disability, kids and grownups with visual disability could actually move more freely throughout and go and work and everything else. So he created this little device that uses electronics and sensing and feedback to actually replace I don't know what you call the little stick, the stick that they use. So that replaces that so that they can actually work and navigate and go through the space. So he did that. He opened up a company. It's called Hand Eye, that device. He actually created that. He's received a lot of awards in Peru and Ecuador for that. And now what he did is he's concerned about entrepreneurs that don't have huge capitals to start their own companies, and they still want to do things that require laser cutting and CNC milling and et cetera. So he's taken technology, and now he developed his own company that is now actually designing and building. He designed and built his own laser cutting machines that are accessible for entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs. And that's what he's designing and building from Ecuador. He's just expanded to multiple countries. He's just expanding from Ecuador and Peru to Mexico. He just let me know. So that's one of the things. This is one of the machines he designed and built. They designed and built. This is another one. Now, in my own business, I've worked with students. Like I say, I launched a number of initiatives, something I call context-based learning for early development programs. So I created the possibility that students learn by doing from their first term. So we inverted the way people learn. Now it's more natural. But in 1993, when I went back to tech and I went back to teaching, faculty were just on the board teaching you on the board. And I said, no, that's not how I learn, and that's not the best way, I think, to learn. So we created something that's called No Limits, where students from their first semester design and build robots that actually climb 4 levels of ladders or stairs autonomously. And that was their final test for their first semester. And they do it, students teach students, and it's a No Limits program. And then it's I Bet You Can is the challenge. And another challenge they have is they have autonomous robots. They build their robots any which way they want, and they can get any help they want. And we did another one where they would go through campus. We would identify trees, because we have trees all over the place. We would select certain trees. They would have to find them, locate them, and then water them with half a liter of water each tree. So they had to be able to navigate and find those and carry the water and go up downstairs and everything. And we're talking about first year students or freshmen. And we took this with John Hopkins, we also did it with undergraduate students. And this is something called context-based learning. Well, it was amazing because now, without teaching them mechatronics, without teaching them the complicated formulas, they gained insight, expanded their reality. So by the time they did go into complicated physics and math, they had the insight to be able to understand the physics and math. So I used possibility for that and worked with students, and we created that possibility. The other thing is, in my own business, I started with $6,000 in my pocket. And once again, in Mexico, you don't have all the banking facilities, but I ended up building robots for an EMAC, which is a major automotive supplier for all of these automotive components, aluminum manufacturing for automotive components, and also for Magna, which is a leading manufacturer of automotive frames and other manufacturing components. So, and now I'm using intentional possibility to help companies transform from traditional 50-year-old, 60-year-old ways of doing business to becoming more proactive and flexible to be able to do it. So that's the power that you have. So to answer the question that you asked me a little while ago, this is what I suggest. Be Fabrizio. Care about something and someone so much, and think about the change that you're making, and forget about the pressure you have to pass the grades, about everything else. And then give it all your passion to do it. What will happen is you'll face the challenges of learning and passing your grades and passing school and doing the lab work, because you have to do it to get to where you want to go. And you're going to have to go get the funding to do what you want to do. And you're going to have to bring people into this. But once the possibility is bigger than you, once what you want to do is bigger than you will not be afraid of others stealing your ideas. You will not be afraid of making the ridicule when you go ask for money. You will not be embarrassed. You will not be scared to ask for help. You will not be scared to ask people and say, I don't know how to do this, because whatever you're doing is much bigger than you. So my conclusions for you are, number one, my invitation for you is think about something that really moves you. Think about something that really moves you. Then the other thing is think about how it affects people, how they feel, and what the world would look like if it did not exist. And that's the first thing I'm going to recommend you start doing, to start with possibility. Okay. Now, as the last words that I'd like to leave you, and then I'll go open the floor for questions. Remember, you have the power to intentionally create possibility. The second thing is, when you do, you will live an amazing life. And possibility will drive you. It'll move you, and it will move others. Third, and this is very important for all of you that are studying right now, and that you want to get a job and you want to lead and you want to make a lot of money someday, or start your company. Organizations need leaders like you, but here's the characteristic. They need leaders that know technology. So you're on the right track. So check. Okay. You're here. And the RISS, check. You've got future now thinking. So check. You've got the vision and know-how to intentionally create possibility. Okay. We're working on it. And you can send me an email, contact me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook. Contact me anytime you want. I'm a little slow and I don't remember what we talked about, so just remind me. Okay. If I don't answer, I'm not arrogant. I just forget things. So just send me an email. That's it. Okay. So vision and know-how. So know-how, no technology, future now thinking, vision, know-how. But the fourth thing you really want to know how to do, and that's why you want to do the intentional possibility challenge, is they need people and they want people that know how to attract and unite the many. Because here's the thing, you can have the best earth-shattering, breathtaking idea, but unless you can move the minds and the hearts of the people, what will ultimately happen is, drum roll, nothing. You can have the best idea in the world, the best technology, the best everything in the world. But unless you are able to connect with people, move the minds and the hearts of the people, what will happen is exactly nothing. You will get zero funds. You will get people, zero people to want to join you. You will get zero people to want to listen to you. And I've been there. And if I start blaming people and I start saying, why don't they understand me? Why don't they understand this is the greatest idea in the world? And I start blaming. Once I understood how to connect with others and how to move the minds and the hearts of the people and how to intentionally create possibility, everything changes. So that's my message to you. And as you and I speak, I will say, play big and intentionally create possibility. You are here to play big. Don't play small. It serves nobody for you to play small. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share with you. And now I'll leave. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll leave the floor open for all the questions now. Anything you want to say? And if there are no questions, Leo's going to make one up so I don't feel bad.
No, there's a couple of questions. Oh, first, thank you very much for this. I love the message. Yeah, I love the word building here, how this possibility mindset, if you let me, allows you to be less fear less of failure, which is very important, and communicate well. Yeah, this is indeed essential. So thank you very much for that. I'm sure students will benefit from this. So the first question is from Łukasz. He says, speaking from experience, it's relatively easy to initially attract people, but the real struggle is to keep them engaged, especially when they have alternatives. So do you have any advice to keep them engaged long term?
Yes. Let it be their own. Let it be theirs. So
Okay.
people will be here for their reasons, not for yours. And there's different levels. One of them is you can tell people, there's a number of books that I really like, and there's a number of things that I like. There's something called conversational intelligence in terms of talking with people and engaging people. There's a book by Judith Glaser called Conversational Intelligence. And it says you can have a conversation where you tell people what to do, okay? And what's going to happen is people will either do it or not. The second thing is you sell your idea to people. But whose idea is it? I'm selling my idea. Whose idea is it? My idea. So it's not theirs. The third level, and that's the deepest level, is when you reach a level of conversation that's co-creation. So in order to co-create, you have to create a space where, number one, you understand people's intentions. What do people really intend? What are their intentions? What are their main concerns? And what are their desires? And one of the things I've learned many times is we're talking the same theme, but different topics. So you and I may be talking about robotics, but we're talking about a different topic within robotics. We may be talking about a project, but we're talking about different topics. We may disagree on the topic, and then we start taking positions. And that's where you start seeing people defending positions. But if I understand what your intention is, what you are after, what you really want, and what you'd like to get out of this, and I understand what you are concerned about, And then we generate the space where I can tell you what I'd like and what my intention is with this and what I'd like to get out of it and what my concern is. Maybe we can find the puzzle and find the way to get it. And then we can also find the common ground where we want to get it. That's why possibility is very powerful, because possibility tells us the destination. Okay. But the main thing, if you want people to take it, is let it be their own. Let it belong to them. And once you're able to do that, you multiply. All of these programs like No Limits, I created that 20 years ago. I think, what was it, in 2000, 2010? I think it was 15 or 18 years ago. It's still going. And I have not placed a foot there. And it already expanded and went to different cities and it went to different things because they made it their own. So it's not about me. Possibility, it's not about you. It's not about me. So the question you want to make is, what is it? Is it about changing the world and really making a difference? Or is it about what? And anyway, it's okay. You're right either way. So it's not about being right or wrong. I'm just telling you something that's more powerful. So find that and help others take it and help others lead. Now, that's different from abdicating. Abdicating says, I don't want to do it, so I'm going to dump it on you and you do it. And then if you're not ready, you're going to be scared. So some people are not scared, and your role has to be to guide them until they're ready to take full ownership. So your role becomes, you don't want them to fail. You want them to succeed. Another thing in possibility is like a seed. The weakest point of possibility is at the beginning. That's when you have to continuously give the mantra, the message, repeat the message. Keep on saying the possibility, the possibility, the possibility. That's the weakest time of possibility. You can't just send an email and assume everyone's excited. You have to continue. So what do? You post photos, you post pictures, you celebrate every single thing that people do. That's why celebrating the small wins, the small successes, the small things is extremely important. That creates the dopamine, the endorphins, everything in our brain. And that's what keeps us going. So that's what it is. And the other thing is, don't take people for granted. We take people for granted. I do that with my family. The people that are closest to us, we take them for granted. In fact, right now, as we're speaking, I realize that I take my family for granted. I take my wife for granted. Right now, I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go and hug my wife. I really take her for granted because she's here with me. They're always here. And we take them for granted. Don't take people around you for granted. Really appreciate them. That's going to help keep them be with you. Yeah. I don't know if this helped, but I think those are good tips.
Oh, it definitely helps. And actually, I've been away from my family for a couple of months now, but I actually have they coming tomorrow. So I'll take this message and give them a nice hug tomorrow.
Cool.
Another question: where can we learn more about the Project Challenge courses like the one you mentioned at Johns Hopkins?
Oh, I don't know if that continues, but if anybody's interested in starting an intentional possibility challenge and wants to take it on, like if you say, let's do it, and you want to do it at your school or you want to do it, whatever, part of my work, I do two ways. One of them is for profit and the other one is nonprofit. So as part of my mission, I want to work with universities and people that want to take it on, take the intentional possibility challenge. So if any of you are interested and let's make a difference through intentional possibility and want to implement it, I'll work with you and we can do the intentional possibility challenge at your school. And don't feel threatened. We'll create possibility. And remember, it's the possibility of changing people's life and helping them find their passion and do whatever they're doing. So if anybody's interested, we'll form a group. You'll be the technologist. You'll help me figure out how we're going to do it, and we'll do it together, and we'll make it, and then whatever happens, happens. So if anybody wants to do that, just let me know, and probably through you, Leo, or we can establish whatever, a WhatsApp group or a whatever group. They say that once the parents get involved in a technology, it's already outdated. So whatever I can suggest is probably outdated. So yeah. So you suggest something.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great. We can keep in touch. Maybe I'll share my email here in the chat
Mhm.
so people can send me and we can
Yeah.
connect
But if you
to.
want, I can create, like I have the intentional possibility challenge. I have something called the intentional possibility challenge. I can create a lesson, kind of like a lesson. I can create a page for students, and it'll tell you the steps. You can live it, and then we can use that. So we can brainstorm on the best way. I'd love the person that asked you the question to be part of that group. I would
Oh
really
yeah,
love it. So if you'll be whoever that person is, I can't remember the name. Who was it?
yeah. Actually, it's YouTube review. I don't know the name.
Okay, YouTube
It's just
review. We would love for you to be part of it. So
yeah. Just
whoever
send
it
me
was,
an email. Yeah.
yeah. So if
Um,
you'll be part of it, I would really love it for you to be part of it, and we'll create it. But I'm definitely game. I mean, I've got a way to create an LMS system. I can create it very simple with the steps. If you want to adopt it by yourself in your school, or if you really want to live it, we can do it as part of a program in your school, and we'll do it. It'll be nonprofit, and just make sure, and then we'll find out a way of celebrating, keep it open, and whatever
yeah.
happens, happens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we actually have another question from YouTube review. Do you think intentional possibilities can work for software development, or is it better for robotics?
It works for medicine. I'm doing it right now for a hospital. We're going to be using intentional possibility to transform the hospital. It works for software. It works for robotics. It works for cultural transformation changes. I did it with 83 people that were in Venezuela. That was a nonprofit organization, women, incredible women that worked and also led nonprofit organizations. One of them started started a center to help the families that have people with cancer. And another person helped created a nonprofit organization to help people that have elderly in their homes and their caretakers. So you can do it in anything you want. Intentional possibility can help you if you want to launch a new company. It can help you if you want to start something in your community. It can help you if you, somebody actually expanded their business internationally using intentional possibility and made a difference. Intentional possibility challenge, you can use it for anything you want. So yes, it works. Software is a great idea for intentional possibility. You can get things rolling. And for leading change, like software has to do with digital transformation. Unless you can get the rest of organization to move and buy in, you're going to get resistance. So intentional possibility is a way of leading the digital transformation initiatives within an organization. So definitely yes.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing news. Uh, um, do you have time for two more questions?
Yeah, I've got as much time as you want. I just want to respect your time.
Okay, great. So another one from Łukasz. After the idea phase comes the execution phase, and in reality, it's hard to survive without funding. That's why people usually look for sponsorships. So the question is, do you have any advice on how to approach sponsors and partners?
Okay, there's going to be two things. One of them, first of all, the statement of possibility, which I go through in the program, and I touch a little in the book, but once you go through the program, that's why when we do the program, both when I do it for companies and now that we're going to do it for the nonprofit, okay? And the only thing I will ask is whatever is for universities, because it's for universities, maintain it for university. But there's something I call the intentional possibility statement. And it's like an elevator pitch, but for intentional possibility. And that helps you attract people. There's one step that I don't mention there, but it has to do with increasing your level of influence and increasing your level of power. And that means you need to attract people that have the influence, that have the resources, and that have the power to open doors and remove obstacles. There's a gentleman named, there's a book called Leading Change by J.P. Cotter, and he wrote a number of years ago, but he's still one of the authorities in leading change. And he says you need to form your coalition, a strong coalition. So you want to attract people that have the resources, and the way you attract them is through possibility. So you enroll them by the impact you can generate. People that have the funds and that are going to donate the funds, they donate it because of the impact. There's two reasons people are going to give you the money. Either it's because of the impact you can do or because of the profits you can generate. Both are valid. And it is allowable for you to generate a social impact and generate profits. Okay, so let me say that again. It is okay and allowable for you to generate social impact and generate profits. In fact, I highly encourage it, because otherwise your funds will dry out and then people that have your service won't have it anymore. So I do encourage creating profitable businesses. But you don't want to create a business plan. You don't want to create that. But how do you attract funds? Is through having a very clear possibility. For example, Rosa Ramirez, a woman I admire very much, she didn't take this program, but she's one of the people that naturally created possibility, okay? So there's a lot of people that have done possibility, not necessarily taken the intentional possibility challenge. So some people like Red, he never took the intentional possibility challenge, but he's my inspiration for the intentional possibility, okay? But Rosa Ramirez, her children were born with a heart problem, severe heart problem. They needed open heart surgery when they were babies born. And if not, they were going to die. And that's very expensive. Now, fortunately, her parents were able to support her, give her the money for that. They did not have insurance, but she became very sensitive of all of the families that do not have insurance and that all they can do is watch their children die. That's it. There's nothing else you can do. So she became sensitive of that, and she created the possibility that every single child that has that disease in Mexico will receive the proper care. And she created the possibility. She started with one person, trying to find the funds for one person. She said, well, I'm not going to save the world by doing one person. So she created the nonprofit, and she started to share that possibility that every single person, every single child that has that condition receives the treatment. And that's been her mantra. She'll talk with everyone. She'll share it with everyone, because maybe you'll talk with 10,000 people, with 100 people, and you'll only get one, and that's fine. That's all you need. You only need one person to give you the money. If you want $1 million, Jim Rohn used to say, if you want $1 million, all you need is for 1 million people to give you $1. That's it. That's it. So you can either look for one person that gives you $1 million, or you can look for 1 million people to give you $1. It's the same thing. But the way you attract them is not by saying, give me $1 million. Why? Because I want you to give me $1 million. You enroll them into the possibility, but get that possibility statement in first and go out there and enroll people. And if they tell you no, don't worry about it. Just learn about how you said it and fine tune your speech. That's it. The more you do it, you elevate your OBI.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. And one more question from Harrison. Sometimes trying to undertake meaningful projects is difficult due to limited funding for students. Do you have any advice for students to help gain funding to support projects aimed at solving some of these big issues?
Okay, what I didn't hear it. Sometimes it's difficult for students to get funding, you said?
Yes. And then the question is if you have advice for students to help gain funding to support projects aimed at solving some of these big issues.
Okay, the first thing is scrap that mindset. Because it's very difficult to wake up in the morning and go out to look funds where the first thing you say is, oh, and I'm going to put a violin, like if you were singing a song. Oh, it's very difficult as a student to get funding. Oh, woe me, let me go get funding. I'm being very cynical on purpose. It's very difficult for you to get up and get the courage and get everything to go out there where you're singing that song in your brain every single day. So the first thing I'm going to say is scrap that. And if you have any friends that tell you, you know what, it's very difficult for you to get that, just tell them, thank you very much. Bye. Because most likely the people that tell you that he cannot get the funding never got the funding. So stop looking for advice from people that never got it. Go look for the people that got the funding and ask them how they got the funding. Number one. Okay. Now I'm going to be nice again. So I give you the strong message first. So drop that mindset. Number two, once again, I will say, declare your possibility. What is it that you want? People will not give you the money because you say you want it. They will not give you the money because poor me, I'm a student and I want the money. People will give you the money because you have a purpose and because there's something bigger. Now, when I started to learn I lead workshops that do change, and I needed $25,000. I didn't have the money, and I went up to the university and I said, "Will you fund me?" I was a professor, and they said no. And I said, "Well, what needs to happen?" That's a very powerful question. What needs to happen for you to say yes? What needs to happen? Now, notice I'm not talking about bribery. I'm talking about what needs to happen. So I asked this person what needs to happen. And she said, "Well, I don't have the funds. Why don't we talk to my boss? He's the VP of education, academic." So I went to talk with her boss, and he said, "No, we don't have the budget for that." Okay, what needs to happen for me to get the money so I can train, and because I want to be able to do this? And he said, "Okay, create a program that will increase resiliency in all of our students, and create a program that will help all of our employees gain self-confidence and be able to uplift their lives and everything." I said, "Fine, I'll do that," because that's what the program was about. "And you'll give me the funding?" He said, "Yes, I'll give you the funding." And that's how I started. So I created the first national program to increase resiliency, sense of purpose, and resiliency, sense of purpose in young adults. I implemented in 4 states in Mexico, taught 80 trainers across Mexico. I also created a first program, trained 300 people within the university, or coached 300 people. And that's how I launched my business. And I got the $25,000 to do the training, all because I asked what needs to happen. So that's a powerful expression. So first, have clear why you want it and how it's going to change the world. Ask them what they need, find out what's important to them, and then ask them what needs to happen, and figure out how you can make a program that helps them meet their needs and also do what you need. And you will get not only what you're asking for, but a lot more. The third thing I will ask is, don't ask for what you think you need. Ask for what you really need. Because sometimes if you're saying, "I need at least $3,000, that's not what you need. And you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're going to get the $3,000. It's not going to be enough. And then you're going to be struggling. So do your numbers right. Figure out how much you really need, because it's the same thing to get $3,000 than it is to get $10,000. And it's the same thing to get $3,000 than it is to get $50,000. It's the same struggle. So do your numbers right. Okay. Now, if you're looking for $3,000, wash cars.
Yeah. Well, I think this was the last question. So first, thank you for such actionable advice. I think this is great, very clear and easy to implement. So I'm sure people will benefit from that. Thank you very much for your time. We love this. And I hope I'm sure students will benefit from this. I think the first word they remember when they wake up tomorrow is possibility. I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things I want to say is I really want to acknowledge you, your team, and everyone, and also Rachel, if she's listening to us, Rachel Burson also. But all of you, I really want to acknowledge you, because what you're doing right now is really, really incredible, really amazing with this broadcast. I really want to acknowledge all the people that are there. And for me, it's an honor to be here and to be part of this community. So I really appreciate for everyone that's on this call and for letting me be part of this all. So thanks a lot for all this work that you're doing and for allowing me to be a part of this. So thank you.